Hello, and thank you all for joining. Today, we're going to be talking about budget updates and Crash Network. The project manager this week is me, Carrington Moore, and my team listed right below. So, our agenda, we are going to have the executive summary, then we're going to talk about hiring and firing costs. After that, we'll move into our updated budget after factoring in the hiring and firing costs. Then we'll crash down our network and we'll give our final crashed budget. So for the executive summary, hiring and firing added about $143,000 to our overall budget. Crashing the network ended up bringing down our time by an estimated of 4 weeks. So we ended up at 16 weeks rather than the 20 that we were initially estimating. And then crashing did increase labor costs by about 31,000 and increase hiring and firing costs by about 51,000. And we'll show where that comes from as we go.
Hi, everyone. This slide provides an overview of the hiring and firing costs associated with our workforce adjustments. The table at the top breaks down the number of skilled and unskilled hours fired per week across various categories. Below, we have a weekly firing/hiring summary where green represents hiring events and red represents firing events. Based on these numbers, we have calculated the financial impact, assuming an average hiring cost of roughly $4,700 and firing costs equal to 1 week's pay, which includes severance and processing. These costs fluctuate week by week with a total hiring and firing expense of approximately $143,000 over the timeline shown. With the hiring and firing adjustments, our new budget has increased to $676,806. However, this still remains under our original budget of $750. The table here breaks down the budget allocations across 5 months. Labor, hiring, firing, supplies, and indirect costs are all factored in. The most significant fluctuations occur in months 3 and 4, reflecting our peak hiring and material procurement periods. Despite these adjustments, we are still maintaining financial control while ensuring the project remains on track.
Going over the crashing network here, this is our initial crashing diagram, network diagram that we created in week 5, no, week 6, and then on the right is our simplified network where we use this to be able to determine how we're going to crash and narrow down the critical path. Here we identify the critical path was planning, hull, deck and cabin, electrical initial testing, and then seat testing, inspection, delivery. We started crashing the planning and then subsequently crashed the other activities in the critical path, but eventually found that other activities needed to be crashed due to them actually becoming critical path, and then the results will be on the next page. Here's the table indicating the duration of days and cost. This is giving you the normal amount of days that we were giving for each of the activities, the amount after we crashed, and then it shows you the difference. Here you'll see the cost for the labor, planning, inspection, research, anything necessary, and then how much the cost increased due to the crash. So here we initially started with planning, and then we are able to choose the activities as discussed earlier, and then we were able to decrease them based off of looking at our Gantt chart. So here we chose approximately a week to some more or maybe some less, depended upon how it would look in our Gantt chart and how it could affect the overall critical path. And you can see that the difference is going from 2 to about 1 week to some activities being 0. Here then for cost, we have a crash cost that was increased due to the average overtime paid. So here we're taking into account that they would be working regular hours and then the pay would increase dependent upon overtime. And we did this by taking the average, and then we increased the number of unskilled workers to decrease the duration of the process. And then, as we discussed earlier, we went from week 20 to week 16 during the crashing process, and the crashing cost increased the cost by about 31,000.
Yeah, good evening to everyone. Yes, now discuss about the crashed budget, which reflects the impact of shorten the project timeline from 20 weeks to 16 weeks, which you can see in the top table. Now we can see in the chart like we have several weeks of high of hirings and firing activities, especially in first week and 8, 9, and 15 week have the highest hiring cost in the beginning and during the surge weeks where the workload is high. And hiring is mostly occurred in the weeks immediately after once the short-term task was completed, and we assume that the average hiring cost is like 4,700 per worker, and hiring cost equals to like weeks pay. And based on that, our total hiring and firing cost came to like 194 300. And now when we compare the with the original 20 week schedule, and the budget is slightly increased, but we can able to reduce the project time from 20 weeks to 16 weeks, so we can save around 4 weeks. It is a significant gain. At the end, our total budget after crashing reaches to like 760K, which is slightly more of our initial budget. But the given time we have saved, we believe that trade-off is absolutely worth it. So that's it for crash budget.
And adding on to the crash budget, the labor ends up going up due to the overtime hours and hiring additional personnel to cover weeks. And the number of man hours would be the same, but as overtime is utilized, the time is split between more people when feasible, and the supplies and indirect cost would be the same before and after the crashing. And so this overall resulted in an additional hiring or firing cost during surge weeks, bringing our budget up above around $83,000. So with this, our total budget would be now around $760,000, which is just under 10,000 above the original budget. So crashing would likely be well worth the cost. So we think so crashing would be worth it. Thank you.